All right, how you doing? I'm Jerry McKee, and let me get some of this thing here. There we go. Well, a little background here. All right, how you doing? I'm Jerry McKee, and let me get some of this thing here. There we go. There it is. Okay, now we can come back to you here a little bit, and let me get a couple little things here adjusted. I'm Jerry McKee, and welcome to a special edition. Well, it's not really a special edition; it's a special person. Uh, we got all kind of things that's going on this month, and what we want to do is we got a wonderful guest that will be speaking about her journey with drug addiction. That's Kelly Bowers, and you got to hear this great story and how God worked in her life and some struggles that she went through. So if you're going through some struggles also, you'll see a number that you'll be able to call in, and we'll be able to talk and ask Kelly something if you've got something on your mind. Or maybe you're struggling with drugs yourself, or maybe you're struggling to get off of them, maybe you're a family member, anything like that, you're welcome to call and talk with Kelly also. And right now, we're going to come back in just a moment after we go to this commercial with Keepsake Jewelers. Mother's Day is coming up. All right, we're back, and it's prime time with Jerry McKee, and we're going to learn a lot about drugs, and actually from the person that's actually taking them. And if you're listening there, if you listened to last Tuesday, you would have seen a lot of information about drugs, what it looks like, where it come from. Most of it comes from China, the 90% version of it, which is more potent. 50% coming out of Mexico is not as potent, but if you lace them both together, it's horrible. Let's give you a little tip, a little note here that the coroner in Greenville County was talking about in 25 years ago, they might have had 25 overdose deaths for the whole year. He says now they have 2 a day. That's outstanding and just unacceptable. It's just crazy. Now I'm going to switch you over to Kelly here in a second. Here, I got too many mouses going on here, Kelly. All right, and Kelly, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming on and going to share your story. And people, if you can see underneath there is a number to call in live, and she'll be able to hear you also. Kelly, tell us a little bit. Your journey is really inspiring. You were just a normal teenager going to college, and you had life expectations of all these things just in front of you. What happened? What got you started on the drug scene?
Well, first, I want to say, addiction does not discriminate against anybody. I had a great childhood growing up. I was took to church, given anything I wanted. I was always involved in extracurricular activities. I was an honor student, a cheerleader, Miss Union High School. I graduated in the top 15 of my class. And when I graduated high school, I went to USC Upstate to become a nurse, and I lived on campus there for a semester, and that's not really what I wanted to do, so I came back home and attended USC Union, and I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. It was just recreational use at first, partying, cocaine, marijuana, taking pills. I never thought it would lead over into addiction. I never thought the destruction that was coming behind it 10 years later was going to happen.
Well, did you think that when you was taking it at the time like that, and with, like I said, recreational, that you can always say, I can stop this anytime?
Exactly. I always said, well, I'm not an addict. I'm not doing this every day. I can stop. But once I crossed over into that addiction, it was where I physically had to have it to function.
And during this point of time that you were just getting involved with it like that, what are some of the ways that you probably hid it from your family, from your parents?
They wouldn't. I was the type of girl that they never ever thought that I would do anything like that. So it was really easy for me to hide it at first. They never, my Kelly's never going to do that. So, I would stay, at a friend's house or not come home or stay here and stay there until I was able, to come home sober, and they would not think anything of it.
Because their little girl can do no wrong, right?
Exactly.
And that's sometimes it's scary because I think parents sometimes trust their children, and when they do this, sometimes it can fall back on them.
Exactly.
What was the drug that really got you hooked?
Opiates, pain pills.
Pain pills.
Yes, sir.
And before you was getting pain pills, or was you buying them off the black market, or did you have an injury or something that you got hooked on them that way?
Yes. I was doing it, recreational at first, and then I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and so I had my own prescription of the pain pills, and I wasn't having to sneak around and, do illegal things to get the pills, and it just spiraled from there.
Now, was alcohol, was that part of your drug scene, or did you drink
I was
much?
19, 20, 21 years old, so, of course, drinking, but it was not really never anything that I, took part in.
All right, so the drugs actually probably took over that part there.
Exactly.
So you didn't become the alcoholic, but just...
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your friends and the ones that you partied with. Were they in school with you, or they just was friends?
Some of them went to school with me, and then some of them were older, that was already out of school. So I think that's where the partying and the cocaine and all came into play, was with the older crowd.
Now, were they addicted also? Some of them, or
some of them went on to be addicts, and then some of them were able just to put it down and never pick up again.
Right. And that's something people don't understand, that this is like smoking. You get addicted to smoking. It's something that you just can't lay down yourself.
You can't. I've tried several times.
And during your time with the drugs and all, did you think that you could just handle anything, that you could go places and no one even noticed, drive and all this stuff here?
I drove several times impaired when I shouldn't have drove. I thought I was hiding it pretty well until it got to a point where I couldn't hide it anymore.
And it's kind of hard to hide it when you get to a certain point. Now, let me ask you this right here too. How much did you start off with the drug? Was it just a little bit and it started building up?
Yes. And my tolerance was really low at first. So, one or two, pain pills at the time would get me high. But, like I was saying to you earlier, you're always chasing that first high. So it continues to get more and more and more. And that's why a lot of people are overdosing, because, they just continue to take more to try to get that first high. And before I got sober, there was times that I could take probably 15 or 25 pain pills a day and still function.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Now, when you would take these the pills and stuff, how did it make you feel? I mean, after you took and got that high, what was that like? That
I could do anything in this world. That I was, I felt like I was Kelly, which I was not her. I wasn't the girl that people used to know, but I just felt like I was invincible, that I could do anything.
Now, you're saying that Kelly girl was no longer Kelly, that people knew. what changed? What some of the changes that they saw, maybe told you, or you look back on it now and you see that person uh, that your friend says, well, that's not Kelly, even though you didn't see them, or they think about that you've changed because when you're high, when you're on drugs, you don't think that you think everything's normal.
Right. My attitude toward life changed. I didn't care anymore. I didn't have any ambitions, no goal to do anything. I was dead inside. And, I always say, when I looked in the mirror right there at the end, there was nothing there. It was just, blank. And, I turned away from my friends. I wasn't there for them anymore, or the ones I thought were my friends. But, and I wasn't a good daughter. I did a lot of things that hurt my family, things I would never, ever do sober.
Right, because before you got on the drugs, and you would think that you'd been over backwards, anything like it, for your mom and dad and your family, and they looked at you as the perfect daughter, which we all do. Our families like that, but inside, who you were. You were different than that daughter.
Right.
Uh, can you remember some of the things that maybe you've done while you was on the drugs like that hurt the family? Because what I want people to understand is that the drugs not only hurt you, but it really affects the family. And when you're on drugs, you don't know that.
Right. I didn't realize how I was hurting my family. It started, I would steal things here and there, and sentimental things that I can never get back, that I've stolen from my family. Money, the lies, the manipulations, making them believe that I was sober when I wasn't.
Yeah, and in doing that, did they start losing more trust in you, or did they even find that you was doing this, whether it be stealing or anything like that? Did they know that you were doing this? Was this their perfect daughter? It couldn't be her. It had to be someone else.
Eventually, all the trust was lost. I don't think my mom really wanted to say that I was the one doing these things, but when she really had to come face to face with that reality, there was no trust left.
Right. And looking back on that, do you see how it affected your mother and father? And looking back, you probably would never took a pill one.
I would never have put them in the situations that I put them in.
Right.
Never.
Well, I know that they're very proud of you now because you can overcome with God's help.
Yes, you can.
And did you ever, by taking these drugs, I know your life was spiraling down. Did you have a job, or could you keep a job?
No. I had my first child when I was 22. So I didn't really work. I tried to go to school a few times, but could never stay in school. I failed out of nursing school because of the addiction. I tried to do pharmacy tech school. That was a joke. I got in trouble for stealing pills from the pharmacy, and got kicked out of school. So that wasn't the route for me to take. And I never really held a steady job. I always stayed at home and took care of my son. And then 3.5 years later, I had another son. So I had jobs, but nothing, no kind of stability whatsoever.
Right, and that's what the addiction is, because you have to have more of that high. And being in the pharmacy business and being on drugs and addiction, that's like putting in a candy store.
That was not good.
I got to ask you this question. Did you go through and read some of the labels? Oh, they got all this right here.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
It especially wasn't good when my mom got the phone call either. So.
Right. Did you ever get pulled over by the police or questioned by the police when you were on the drugs?
Never.
So you just kind of hid that very well.
It's kind of flew under the radar.
Wow, because I know a lot don't fly now because it's so. And let's get things that people don't know too. That fentanyl wasn't in the picture then.
It was not.
And that's probably great because it saved your life.
I would be dead.
Yeah. because in searching that high that you crave, and it's a craving, right?
It's a craving.
And when do you have any particular time of the day you got that craving? Did you have it when you was depressed, or maybe you had some anxiety, or?
Well, when it physically became addiction, I had to literally have the drugs to be able to get out of bed, or I wouldn't be able to get up and function and take care of my children because I would be sick from the withdrawals.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the withdrawals a little bit. What do they feel like?
Death.
Wow.
I tried to detox at home, by myself, alone, and I would go 2 or 3 days and just be like, you know what? I'm just going to go use again because I can't do this. I was physically ill.
And was any particular drug that was making you that, or just combination of all of them? When you mix drugs together, did you actually know? I know sometimes people on drugs, they just might know more than the pharmacy does. So how did you know how much to take that wasn't going to put you in a distressed physical?
Sometimes I didn't. I just would push the limit to see how much I could take.
And that was very dangerous, wasn't it?
Very dangerous.
How did you administer drugs to your body?
It started off, orally. I did that for a long time. And then it got to a point about 2 years before I got sober. I wasn't getting that high anymore, and the crowd that I was hanging around were IV drug users, and they showed me how to do that, and I really thought my life was spiraling, but when I figured out how to do that, my life went to hell.
Wow. All right, be sure you can call in at 864-441-9382, and if you got any questions for Kelly. And right now, we're going to go to a commercial here again with Keepsake Jewelers. They're our sponsor for this week. And as soon as I can get this thing there we go. All right, I'm Jerry McKee, and we're here with Kelly Bowers and her journey and drug addiction. And we're going to come back to her, and be sure to, you can give her a call anytime to ask her some questions. You can do that. Right now, we're going back to Kelly where we can hear some more interesting ways that drug addictions affect you and your family. So, here we go, Kelly. How you doing, Kelly? We're coming back to you right now, and let me ask you this: in your drug, I'm assuming that you was pretty high when you. What was the first arrest that you kind of skinned by a little bit? But tell us a little bit about that.
I was caught shoplifting in Walmart. I actually had drug paraphernalia on my person. And I was able to chalk the Walmart associate into letting me go to the bathroom to get rid of all that before the police got there because I didn't want other charges other than the shoplifting charge. But I was high on Xanax that day. I really don't remember a whole lot, but I went to jail. I got the PR out, which means I got to sign myself out. I didn't have to pay any money or anything like that. And, of course, Donna didn't let me come back home that night. So I was staying with, some friends, family, and I stayed gone for a while after that, just getting high every day while she had my children.
Yeah. So Donna's your mother.
Donna's my mother.
Right. Which let you know that. Well, yeah. And that first, did you stay all night in jail?
I did not. I did not have to spend the night.
Yeah. Did they know you was high?
Probably did.
Probably did, or just didn't, just kind of overlooked that part
Yeah,
of
they
it?
probably overlooked that part, but yeah.
Well, probably because you wasn't driving, or they didn't see you drive up or anything
Right.
like that, so it makes a big difference.
But, union is union, so the mugshot was all over, the place, and I couldn't hide from it. But at that time in my addiction, I think people knew
Right.
what I was doing.
Something was wrong because Kelly does not do this stuff.
Right.
And now, when you was arrested for that and you mugshot everywhere like that, did your friends and some of your people call you up and see you out there and say, hey, I seen your mugshot, and they didn't?
No.
I guess they just kind of want to brush it under the rug
Brush
too.
it under the rug.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, and I've seen some of the mugshots. I get a lot of the things from the sheriff's department, being a licensed media, and they and I see a lot of mugshots, and so you kind of escaped by that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
Oh, okay. Now, what is the one that that really shocked you and took you to jail?
Well, I had two, and they were really close together right before I got sober. The first one was, I think, in October of 2015. I had tried to buy narcotics in the Walmart parking lot. And I know one of them, maybe both, are watching. As soon as I stepped out of the car, Johnny Sherfield and Jared Gilstrap swarmed my car. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to jail. But I had my child in the car, my middle child. And I really wasn't worried about going to jail for trying to buy the narcotics. I was more worried about my child in the car and what was going to happen because I was going to jail. And I begged and pleaded with them, please, let me call my parents. I know it was going to be bad when my parents showed up, but I just wanted them to be able to get my child.
How did your parents react when they saw you? Did they see you when they come to pick the child up?
Oh, yeah.
What? Wasn't happy?
Me and Donna had a very big confrontation in the Walmart parking lot, resulting in Jared telling me I needed to keep my mouth shut or there would be, more charges. So he did let her take Caden, her and my dad take Caden, and I went to jail. But I didn't have to spend the night that night either. I got right back out.
Right, and doing that, and looking back on that arrest that night in Walmart parking lot. So I know you can get everything at Walmart's, but you having your child in the car and going there to buy drugs, and you look back on that, it probably just scares you to death, doesn't it?
I was not in my right state of mind.
Right, and not being in that, and that's what I want people to know, that under the influence, you don't make good decisions.
No, I put my children in danger when I never would have done that sober.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: did they get the person that was going to give you the drugs, or were they pretending the ones that had the drugs?
They were setting me up.
Setting you up, okay. Because I was kind of wondering about that too. But even with setting it up, when you went into some places to buy drugs, what were some of these places like? Because you have to be, I know some people say, well, I got friends that do this and not so bad, but I know there's dark places that you go into that is very dangerous, because I see it all the time.
Yeah. Several, just different houses, and I would leave my kids in the car while I would go in to do this and not think twice about it. There was one particular house that I guess was like a meth house, and there was no furniture or anything in there. They were just really selling drugs out of the house. And that's in that house is where I experienced my first OD on meth. And I was begging them to take me to the hospital, but who's going to take me to the hospital?
True. Now, how did you get to the hospital?
I didn't go.
You didn't go? And
they throwed me in the shower, tried to wake me up, and I guess the drugs wore off and I was okay, and I drove myself home that night.
Now, what time frame was that? The time that you felt like that you was getting into the state of overdose, and then putting you in the shower, and the whole time your children were in the car, right?
No, my children were not with me at that point.
Oh, they wasn't with you.
No.
Okay. Okay. I know you said you had drove up and.
Yeah, but no, they were not with me that particular day. No.
Okay, so that's some really dark places to go because you're going into a house that you have no clue and it's full of drugs and drug addicts.
Yeah.
There, so you're really risking your life besides the drugs and that too, all before to get that high, right?
To get that high.
And again, you're not thinking rationally, are we? And that's what drugs do to you.
Right.
And
I mean, in my right state of mind, I never would have been at that house to begin with.
tell us about the second arrest of being on drugs.
So after I got arrested in October, it was a few weeks later in November. After that first arrest with the drugs, I wasn't allowed to go back home. So I was with friends, family, whatever you want to call it. And Donna and my dad Jeff had always let me come, back home after getting in trouble. But that time was different. 24 hours after I got out of jail that night, Donna and Jeff served me with no trespassing on their property, the house I lived, the house I grew up in, the house where my children were, and they took emergency custody of my children, Carter and Caden.
And as a mother, and I know that had to be devastating, especially, and you really looking back on it now, and had to be devastating on your parents to do their daughter that way, that they had the insight of her being a great nurse, a great person, doing this right here.
Right.
But she's turned into this person that's not her.
And I was mad at them at first, like, how dare them tell me I can't come home or I can't have my kids. But who was I going to show up at court, high, homeless, nothing to show for myself, and try to take my kids back?
Right. Now, speaking of being homeless, and I see this a lot too with addicts that when I'm out at night, where are some of the places you stayed when you was homeless?
Wherever I could lay my head down at night.
So it could be an abandoned house even?
I mean, I had they were not family. They were related to one of my children, and that's where I would frequently go, when I would get in trouble. So, but it wasn't safe there either.
Right. So you were just jumping from place to place, and yourself, when you're in that state like that, no one's going to keep you in their house long.
No.
And now, when I think you said was when you went to jail.
The very last time I went to jail, I got a felony charge. I thought I was selling food stamps. And when I opened the front door, there stood Jared and Johnny. Again. I said, oh, man, I don't want to go to jail. And Johnny said, well, let's just take her to Donna. And I was like, I don't know. I may want to go to jail. But like I was telling you earlier, I'll never forget Jared Gilstrap looked at me and said, no, you lock her up. And that saved my life. I've been sober since.
So you had time. Tell us a little bit about your experience being in jail and having this time to, I guess, a new revelation in your life.
All right. So this time when I went to jail, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to sign myself out like I did all the other times. I'm not going to have to stay the night. Well, I didn't have a bond, which I think my mother had some things to do with that. But, and there was some complications with another female that was back in the population, so I got put in a cell by myself. And I was in that cell for 23 hours out of the 24 hours a day. And I was only there for 3.5 days, but in that cell alone, I sometimes I would say, God, help me, just get me out of the situation. And I would be right back into the same situation. But I hit my knees in that cell in the Union County Jail I was humble. I had to show humility. I had to put my pride aside and beg God to help me, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I didn't want to live like this anymore. I physically did not want to do the drugs, but I had to be able to function, or I was sick. And God showed up.
Did any point in time, right before this happened or anything like that, any point in time is when you tried to seek maybe counseling, or maybe one of these places that's to get you off drugs? Have you been?
Yes, I did detox one time, which is only like a 7-day program, which I got put on Suboxone then, which is a whole nother story, because that turned into one of my drug of choices, because you can abuse it if you don't do it right. And I had my parents fooled. You know, they were paying for it, and I was getting high off of it. And, you know, once they cut that off, I continued down the spiral of using the opiates and meth and whatever I could get high on. I went to rehab in 2014. I come home, I was sober for about 2 months, but I hid it for a long time because everybody was like, oh yeah, she's doing great. She's been to rehab, but I wasn't doing great.
Yeah, because it's a misconception. Like I said, you used it for your advantage. You used it for, well, I've got this drug here, which is pretty neat here, so I can trade it for this drug.
Right.
So instead of a rehabilitation only for that, and that's a really short time. And I know some people that's been on drugs and was a drug addict and they got off of it, and they knew all the games to play in these.
I was a master manipulator.
Right. If they want to hear this, you let them know, right?
Right.
And it just aspires from that. And we're going to take another little break right here. And I'm Jerry McKee, and you're listening to Prime Time with Jerry McKee. Let me press another button here. There we go. Now, and you're listening to the story here of Kelly Bowers and her journey, and we're going to come back and see what a little bit different, what God has done in her journey, and how other people help in the right places that really helped Kelly get back on track. Right after this commercial from Keepsake Jewelers, Mother's Day is coming soon. All right, we're back. We're back. And you're going to be able to hear, we're going to finish up with, not finish up with Kelly, but my thing keeps going off here, so we'll just cut that old music off. Now, we've heard a lot of the stories, and that's just only a minor, not minor, but just a few little lights. I know she's got hundreds of stories she can tell that will probably scare most of us, or we would not dare go into any places that she's been and things. So, and I want you to look too, is that when you see someone that's addicted and it's on the street like that, don't look down on them. Try to see what you can do to speak kind words, helping words. Maybe that they will take that challenge, and they have to take that. They nobody can do it for them. It has to be them. And kudos for the sheriff's department during that time too, that they seen John Sherfield and Jared Gilstrap seeing something in Kelly that no one else was seeing at that time. So that even though she got arrested and things like that, but you know what? Sometimes God has to strap us down to do things. Now, Kelly, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Now, you got put in jail and you went to your knees. Tell me a little bit about that experience. What made you at that time, what thoughts, I know you had quite a few hours to think about this. What thoughts came in your head that said, it's time?
I was just tired of chasing that drug day after day after day. It was a full-time job from the time I woke up in the morning to the time I went to bed at night. And sometimes I wouldn't even go to bed at night if I didn't have any drugs to do when I woke up the next morning, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to function. I was just sick and tired of running and chasing.
Your body was
I was giving out. I went to rehab the very last time weighing at like 110.
Wow. That's good. Did you, any depression, anxiety, or anything like that?
I think, mental health goes hand in hand with addiction. And depression, anxiety, yes, but I was just, I would use the drugs and stuff to mask those emotions so I didn't have to feel anything.
Right. What was the first thing after you got on your knees? Did you feel like a relief that came over you?
I just felt like the weight was lifted off my shoulders. And, God's got a funny way of doing things. So I got put back in the population with the other women, and I was like, all right, God, I need you to answer these prayers. Like, I want out of here. I need to get my life back together. And one of the female officers came back, and she put handcuffs on me, and she said, come on, your lawyer's here. And I was like, I ain't got a lawyer. And she said, well, come on anyway. There's somebody up here that wants to speak with you. And I opened up that door at the jail, and on the other side of that glass was Bill Randall.
So Bill Randall was your lawyer?
No. I think there was some kind of miscommunication there, but he was there,
right,
to help, to see what he could do. And, Bill knew my story, and, he had been there for my parents, trying to help them through it as well. And he looked at me and he said, what do we need to do? And I said, you got to get me out of here. I'm going to die. Because at this point, I'm already starting the withdrawals. And, in a county jail, they're really not going to do anything for you.
Right.
To go through that.
They just let you go through it.
Let you go through it. And, he said, well, let me see what I can do. And it wasn't maybe 2 hours later. David Taylor had a big hand in it. He was the sheriff at the time. The stipulation was I get out of jail into the custody of my mother and go straight to rehab. And if I didn't, my bond would be revoked and I would go back to jail. And I had drugs on my person when they arrested me. That was my personal drugs, Suboxone. And when I seen my mother, I hadn't seen her probably in 2 or 3 months. And I looked at her and I said, look, this is my last rodeo. I got high in the parking lot at the rehab, and I've been sober since.
Well, I know Bill Randall's with C4 Ministries.
Yes.
And he was talking with your family, and they probably called upon him also, because regardless of your condition, now you're their daughter, and they're seeing their daughter dying, and reaching out to C4 Ministries. They do a lot of great work in this community, and Bill Randall especially. And Bill Randall's got some personal things he can tell people about himself,
And so he knew where you was coming from.
He did.
He knew, and he knew the struggles that your family were going through. So again, like you are doing now, you're passing on that legacy of you saying, okay, I've been sober for 7 years. It's time for me to tell my story to help someone else get sober.
That's right.
And you remember what, I know you said a little bit about what you and Bill talked about, but do you remember anything particular that really stuck out to you that here's Bill, and Bill's a godly man, and here you were minutes ago in the jail cell on your knees, and yet here comes a godly man.
It was a God thing.
Yeah.
God answered those prayers, and he answered them
Quickly and compassionately.
He did.
And now when you went into population like that, were the other inmates there looking at you did you tell them about your experience about God, how God's going to change your life?
I didn't.
No, because a lot of times you get intimidated. People think you're just lying just to get out and stuff like that. Now, when you seen your mom for the first time in several months, how did that make you feel, seeing her and knowing that God is coming in your life and you're going to, with God's help, change?
For the first time, I had hope.
Hope. And when you have that type of hope, your mom looks at you, and I bet she had it too.
She did. I think she knew I was going to do it this time. Because, in the past, I had tried to do it for, her, my dad, my children, just to kind of get them off my back. But this time, I did it for me. And I meant it. I meant it with my whole heart that I was going to stay sober.
Right. And you have now for 7 years.
Yes, sir.
And I know that you was kind of a little nervous coming up because it's the first time you're really telling your story out. You've told bits and pieces of it, but you really went overboard here and told a lot. And what are some of the things that you would tell someone that's going through what you went through, what they need to do? Because you have the experience when you know what they're going through because you went through it.
Right. You're not alone. I thought I was alone in the whole thing, but, I'm a godly person, and I knew God carried me through that addiction, and I got sober for a reason because I have a purpose. There is hope. You may not think it right now, but you just, one day at a time, you have to humble yourself and say, hey, I'm an addict. I have a problem. I need help. You've got to speak up. You've got to ask for help. Because if you don't, nobody knows. Nobody knows that you're really sincere, that you want help. I never asked for help until right there at the end when I needed it.
And going through your addiction, there wasn't too many volunteers to try to help you, was it?
No.
Until they seen that you were sincere.
Right. I had kind of burnt all those bridges. My parents were there when I first went to rehab the first time. They brought my kids to see me. They were there every weekend. But that last time, I didn't have weekend visits. I didn't get to see my kids. And, when I got through with that rehab, I told my mom, I'm like, look, 8 weeks ain't enough. I got to do something else. I got to go further in this. I can't come back to Union right now. So I lived in a halfway house in Columbia for 6 months. And there I learned to be a productive member of society again. I had to work. I had to pay rent. I had to go to NA meetings. I had chores in the house that I lived in. I learned how to, to live again. And I met some of my very best friends there. And I also met my husband in recovery in Columbia as well.
And did you? It was probably about more of awakening to you in that Columbia house than you would just regular rehab, because it's more structure and more getting you back in society as far as working goes and things like.
Yes, sir.
even enough to just clean the house or something. And when you was doing those things, how did you feel working and doing things and coming back, and even though you're going to the meetings and you're in this halfway house, but yet there's something about it that's changing your life. When, from the day one you went in till you left, what was the difference?
It was great. I could finally, look in the mirror again and see Kelly. I didn't see that blank stare girl staring back at me anymore. I had life. I had a purpose. And I wanted to get back to my children. And that's why I worked so hard to get them back.
And that's the mother coming out of you. That's where God has opened your eyes up. Look at these precious gifts. When you're getting back into society, I know that it's hard because people's going to judge you on what you did in your past, because everybody always brings up your past.
Yes.
Even though they say they'll forget it, but they bring it up. And how did you deal with that? Because I know you had some friends here and some that.
Well, when I got back to Union, I had to do one main thing, and I had to change my people, places, and things. I didn't go around those people anymore. I didn't frequent those places anymore. I didn't do those things anymore. I stayed at home, and I ended up getting a great opportunity, which turned into a career. And I just kept my mind focused and the positive. It wasn't even the negative things people were saying. It was the positive things because they could actually see me changing.
Right, and then that's the same. Now, did Bill come and see you quite often? Even and probably does still yet now.
I didn't see anybody after I went to rehab. I saw my kids a few times, but I didn't frequent Union at maybe once or twice. But I definitely seen him when I got home.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about. When he
Yes.
got home, did he make a call on just to talk with you?
Oh yeah, Bill's my preacher, and he baptized me 2 years ago with my whole family.
Oh, amen.
So
Well, that's great because Bill's a great guy, and
I love his family.
yeah, he's and I know that he's beaming because God led him in your path too, and the lives that you've touched. Because when we look at people that, including myself and yourself, that's come through some struggles in life, and we see how God has changed that person, and they see God worked in you, and they can't help but see what God's miracles do, and that gives hope to others.
Right.
And that's why this podcast, I was so delighted for you to be on it, is because to show that hope, and your family's in church, you're living a normal life that God has given back to you. And
Yes, and it's been great. It's been great. I have a career, a husband, 3 beautiful boys, 3 beautiful stepdaughters. I have my own house. I pay my own bills.
Yeah.
I have my own car.
And
Things look, once I started doing the next right thing and I put God first in my life, everything else fell into place.
And see, people don't realize it never had this struggle. Is that you talk about? And I have a car. Yes.
Yeah.
Even the simplest thing is saying, I actually got a lawnmower that I can mow grass with, and
Yeah.
before I had no place to live.
Right.
That
I don't take anything for granted anymore.
yeah, obviously not, because you lived a good testimony for Christ, and also you're a good testimony for others to be able to talk to, and to because it's not easy for someone to come to someone who's never walked in those shoes.
Right. And that's why it was so hard for my parents and family to understand, because they didn't understand addiction. Addiction is a disease, and it is genetic, and they never walked in those shoes, and they didn't understand. So that was so hard to try to communicate. I wasn't doing what I was doing just to hurt them or to be, manipulative or be a liar or be a bad mother, a bad daughter. I had a disease, And, I will always have that disease, but I know what to do now to keep it at bay.
Well, we're going to go back to a commercial right now with Keepsake Jewelers, and we're going to come back and we're going to ask you a little bit about how you keeping yourself, because an addiction never goes away. So I'm Jerry McKee with Prime Time. Directly back on you.
Okay.
All right, we're back, and we're here with Kelly Bowers. Now, Kelly, I got to ask this question here before we get ready to close this out in a few minutes. Drugs, how does it make you appear? Now, you showed me a picture, and I've got it on Facebook there too, when you were on drugs versus now.
I had no life. I was dark. I was skinny. I was losing weight. My face was all broke out. My hair was falling out. I was malnourished. Now I have life.
Yeah. Well, in both those pictures, let's talk about the malnutrition part like that. Did you eat?
No.
Just didn't care about eating.
A lot of the drugs, I would never be hungry. Especially, like meth and things like that. You would be up for days at a time, and eating was just not something that you did.
Now, you're talking about you'd be up for like 2 or 3 days? Wow, and then just think if I would go without a few hours sleep.
Right.
Now that you've been sober for 7 years, does that mean that the addiction has just disappeared?
No, it's still there. I have the tools that I need to be able for it not to show up.
What are some of those tools that way give someone else?
Helping other people. If I can help one person, I did my job. If I can see another addict struggling, I think back to my life at that point and where I've come, and they help me. The new addict helps me stay sober. And I feel like that's my purpose, just help the next person that needs help. I also have a recovery meeting on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock in Union at Kirby's Cake Shop. It's an all recovery meeting, so families welcome, any addictions welcome. It's open discussion, and we're just there to listen, to share our experience, strength, and hope to the next addict.
So it's not the purpose to judge; it's the purpose for them to relate and be with others that's fighting this same thing.
It gives them a safe place.
A safe place, and that's a good thing, because we too many times we say, well, they're on drugs, let's lock them up.
Right.
That's not it. That's not the cure for it, because you're a fine example of that, how life can be turned around if people cared.
That's right.
And you had people that cared.
And I had people that never gave up.
Right. Never gave up. And I don't think your mom and dad ever gave up.
They never did. They showed that tough love, but they never gave up.
And that tough love, and you can see the hurt that they went through. And I think that makes you even a better mother.
It does.
Because the sacrifice they went through, and to help their daughter that was perfect. And now she's perfect again. And that's a blessing. That's God's work, and that's what He wants to do. And it's so many drug addicts right now. Drugs are so rampant right now, and we just need more soldiers like yourself out there. Bill Reynolds, he still check on you. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
your pastor.
I talked to him. I actually talked to him today, and he said a prayer with me over the phone before I got here.
That's great. Bill's a good guy. C4 Ministries is good. And can't emphasize so much how much they do in the community with counseling and all kinds of things like that. My little dog comes running back in here. I guess they let her out of timeout. But Kelly, is anything else you want to tell anyone?
I just want to say, if anybody's watching, a family member, an addict, there is hope. You can change. I'm the prime example. I'm here. You can find me on Facebook any hour. Call me. I will try to get you to the place that you need to get help. But you've got to want it. You've got to be the one that wants to get help. You can't do it for anybody else. You got to admit you've got a problem. And there is light at the end of the day.
You got to want to quit, right?
You got to want to quit.
And regardless, and don't let it go to the extremes like you had to go through.
No.
And at any point, did you ever wake up saying that you wish you hadn't woke up?
Yes.
And
there were days, maybe it'll be better if I just don't wake up. I won't have to fight this fight anymore.
And it is a fight.
It was the fight of my life.
Something that began out as being recreational and it's fun, end up being...
It almost took my life.
Yeah. But you got it back. And if someone wants to come to that meeting...
Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock.
And where's it? Kirby's?
At Kirby's Cake Shop.
Kirby's, see there? You got to open the invitation to come there. And we are going to end this, Kelly. And I'm so glad that you are with us to talk about this. And this is very, very important. And let me switch over here. So, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I know that I have enjoyed it. Appreciate Kelly coming and exposing her life to us. It's difficult to do sometimes to put it out there. And I hope that some of the churches or some of the other organizations that would like for Kelly to come and talk to their organization about her journey and how she overcome it. I'm sure she would be glad to do this. This is kind of like the first really open for her. Please give her a call, and she'll be glad to do it. So I'm Jerry McKee, and I want you to stay tuned to next week. And you know what? I'm going to switch this. There we go. Oh, I love pushing buttons and music. Okay, thank you for watching Prime Time with Jerry McKee, and stay tuned next week. You will see another guest comes up, and I'm going to let you guess who that guest is. And hopefully we're going to be maybe at a location. We're going to try it and see. I'm Jerry McKee, and you have a great night and a blessed day.